All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. I'd like to welcome Mayor Ferguson, who's with us, who is the AJL coordinator for Bayside Moorabbin, and we've also got Tyler Krumholtz with us, who is the Tennis Victoria competitions manager. So he looks after not only AJL but pennant and other competitions. There's going to be a few of you who are old hands at AJL. We may have something new for you, we may not, but it's good to have you on board. And we've probably got some people, this is your first time. So hopefully we can give you some idea of what you're getting into and what you can expect. It's great to have 28 people on board. And we're also taping this session in case anybody has missed it as well. So the first thing is, I apologise that Moorabbin and District's logo is not there. It's done in some sort of strange PDF format, and every time I try to paste it on, I tend to lose the text. So we went with the combined Bayside Moorabbin logo, which is also on the hoodie that some of you have ordered. All the hoodies are here. So moving right along, just a bit of history about Tennis Victoria Pennant. Pennant actually started in 1883, and it's Australia's largest interclub competition, and it's been running for 138 years since its inception. The AJL, Association's Junior League, was formerly called Junior Pennant. Tyler, when was Junior Pennant? When did they change the name?
2017 was the first year of AJL being formally named. So the year before that I started.
Yep. And do you know how far back Junior Pennant dates?
Oh, you're going to test me there. I've heard it's about 25 years-ish. I heard, yeah, like sometime in the 90s. Unfortunately, I don't have more information on that one.
Yeah, and the best way to determine is just as if you go to representational netball or basketball, this is the representational level of tennis. So you're playing the best players from all the other associations in Victoria. And one of the reasons AJL is really important is because we enter what's called regional team events every year, and they're held over Victoria amongst the associations. They're done in age groups, under 10s, under 12s, under 11s as well. And then we have big events like the Pat Cash Cup, which is all age groups 12 through 18, which we also enter teams in. And most of the children that get to play in a regional team event think they're amongst the best tennis experience of their life because they're in such a big team. So the Pat Cash Cup, for instance, which is towards the end of February, that's just part of the pathway, as is AJL, as is getting into the metropolitan squads, as is getting into the National Development Academy. They all feed into the same thing. So getting into the more details, would you like to, Tyler, talk about the potential of rescheduling? We know that we're going into another lockdown, and that means that round one matches are going to show as cancelled, but that may not necessarily be the case. So Tyler?
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, first of all, thanks Craig for having me on and giving me a chance to talk with some of the team managers, and just like to take the opportunity to thank the team managers for stepping up and doing the job this season. Yeah, hopefully with, I know that Bayside puts a good amount of work into getting you guys prepared. Tonight's just an example, so hopefully the job doesn't seem too onerous, but we do really appreciate you taking the leadership role for your teams. I guess, yeah, so Craig is asking me to talk about potential rescheduling. Obviously, COVID is a part of our lives now, and we've all learned to be, I think the famous word is agile. So, the first round is postponed, is what we're calling it, and we're looking at potential options to reschedule. So the rescheduled rounds would be after all the scheduled rounds are complete. So so if you have a 10-round season, it would be after that. Only the 16 Bs with a little bit different schedule, potentially might be before the 10 rounds are completed. They're rescheduled rounds. Yeah, that's just something we're gonna look into, and we might have the finals as late as December 19th, but it'll basically depend on how many matches are affected by COVID throughout the year. So we're hoping it's just the one, but also we're realistic and we're planning for potential more than that.
I might just remind people, maybe if you just pop yourself on mute, we'll be giving you a chance to talk and ask questions, of course, later. But yeah, it is coming across to everybody. So maybe if you put yourself on mute, but we can always unmute you if you like, and yeah, you can ask a question if something comes up. So, all right. So thanks for that. Now, the next thing is about Match Center. Some of you out there probably have never used Match Center and don't know what Match Center is. So, Tyler, there's just a snapshot of a Match Center screen. Would you like to just explain what's on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic record here for Savannah, by the way. I can see why we're sharing Savannah's profile, not mine. I have a bunch of L's on mine currently. So this is your Match Center dashboard or your home screen on Match Center. So when you first log in, hopefully this is what you see. And this is what you will see if your player has been registered on the team with your login account, which is otherwise known as your tennis account. So hopefully this is what you see. If it's not, all you need to do is just do a search for your player's name and make sure you're logged in as your player. So do that search in that top bar that Craig is motioning to right now, and then identify the correct profile. There'll be a blue button on the profile that says link profile, and then after a day or two after that's been approved, you'll see all the details when you log in. So that is what you're seeing here. So you can see upcoming matches. You can see Savannah is playing in both Pennant and AJL. So she has the results for both Pennant and AJL right here on that homepage. This is also the only way that you're going to be able to enter scores for your team as well. So you're only going to be able to enter scores if you see this detail, and you're only going to be able to do it on your dashboard. So I've already seen a question come through in the chat. If you have searched for your name and you don't see that blue link profile button, send me a quick email, and it's basically because you have two different logins. So you've created a login already, and now you have a second one, and we need to merge those together. Unfortunately, there isn't a blue button to do it yourself. So
the last match will be cancelled in Jack's Pennant, Annie. Yeah, will be. And they finished second by 1 point.
So I think you're coming through. Is that Lloyd? I think you're coming through there to everybody. Maybe just put yourself on mute potentially. Yeah. So that's basically it. Craig, I'm happy to go through anything else on Match Center if you want me to share my screen, later or now or whatnot.
Well, let's do the AJL one, and some people will be familiar with Match Center. What we'll do is we'll come back to Match Center at the end. You can share your screen and walk people through that, because I'm pretty confident quite a few of our 10 and unders who are joining us for the first time, they won't have used Match Center previously. The other person who can also help with score entry is Maya, who is on the line. And so we'll do that at the end. So we'll quickly run through what the difference between associations junior league is and, say, local competition. It's the best opportunity for Melbourne tennis players to represent their association against the top players, other associations, in a fun team competition. The emphasis being it's a fun team competition. This is not life or death. It's still about having fun. Differs to local comp because local comp is normally 14 weeks with finals. This is only 10 weeks with a grand final on week 11. When week 11, due to lockdowns, actually is. We'll come back to you on that. 4-player teams, just like the local comp. Players on a Sunday morning. 15th of August should have been our first round, running through until the 21st of November, grand final day, but all that's subject to lockdown. Matches commence at 8:30, not 9 o'clock like the local comp, 8:30, except if you're in the under 18 mixed, and conclude by 1 p.m. So as you can see, what is normally the local competition, you might take 2 hours to get through your 6 sets. This is a more significant length of competition with 4 singles, of which they're the best of 2 sets with a 3rd set match tiebreaker. The match tiebreaker is a tiebreaker that is played 1st to 10 with a 2-point advantage, different to a normal tiebreaker. So it would be worth familiarizing yourself with a 3rd set match tiebreaker. If any of the kids on the line play tournaments, you will know, probably be familiar with that format of the 10-point, first to 10-point tiebreaker. Then you play 2 doubles rubbers. A doubles rubber is an 8-game set in each home and away match. So you'll play 1 best-of-2 set match and then 2 doubles rubbers. Doubles rubber is 8-game set, but if you get to 8 games all, it's just a normal tiebreaker. And you'll do that each week against the other teams in your sections. And the other difference to local competition, because we run an 18 and under junior competition, this is graded within age groups. So you'll be playing children in your own age group. 10 and under is a mixed competition. Then you've got 12, 14, 16, and 18 and under. The 18 and under is also a mixed competition. The other difference between local comp and AJL is you wear a team shirt in AJL. We have a uniform. Ours doesn't quite look like those. We have the shirts, and I was very worried with COVID that they weren't going to arrive in time. But I currently have anybody who's ordered a hoodie. I have the hoodies. I'm wearing one now. When I stop sharing my screen, I'll be able to model it for you. And also, I believe the shirts will arrive tomorrow. We have shirts that we ordered last year left over that we will be selling cheaper than the new variety. They are the same design. The design doesn't change. It's just different material in the makeup. But we have children who have been wearing the original shirts for 3 years now with no apparent difference. So if you've asked for a cheaper shirt, you'll get that. Okay, so just be aware there is no difference in the actual style or colors or anything like that. A couple of other differences to local comp. We talked about commitment. This is more for mum and dad. You're going to have to travel quite a bit further. You will notice if you've had a look at the draw already that Barwon has teams in there. There's Berwick teams. There's Eastern Region. There's Northeast Suburban, which is out near Thomastown, which I've played at a club called St Luke's out there doing AJL last year. And I think that was as far as Barwon. We thought when we played out there once before, we'd reached the end of the city, but we hadn't. We just kept on going, and we stopped before we got to Sydney. So there is a lot more travel. We've talked about the length of matches. We've talked about the length of season. Tyler, I'll just bring you in. I don't think we're doing super rounds this year, are we, because of COVID?
It's still up in the air. I'm hopeful we can, but it'll be, we're still determining that.
Yeah. The super rounds are great events. They're held at a big venue. In the past, it's been Burundara, where all the age groups of one section are there at the same time. So you'll have something like, maybe anything up to 10 or 12 AJL matches going on at the same venue. But Tennis Victoria brings along handouts for the kids in bags. There's a guest speaker there, usually some professional player or somebody who's got a well-credentialed to talk to the kids. And it just makes it all that little bit more special. And also finals are a big event. They're usually held only at 3 venues. So you're usually at a venue with lots of other children playing. And the other thing is they're verified UTR matches. I don't have a UTR slide. Would you like to talk about UTR, Tyler?
Yeah. So the matches will go across the UTR as long as everybody within that rubber. So that means if it's singles, it's you and your opponent. If it's doubles, it's you, your partner, and both of your opponents. So as long as everybody within that rubber is registered on their team with that tennis account, and they have their birth date on their tennis account. So there's 2 kind of criteria there. Most of our players in AJL are registered on teams with their tennis account, so that's a good thing. Maybe I just recommend to some of the team managers to have their players just make sure that their birth date is updated on their account. So, but if that's the case, then all their matches are going to go across to UTR. So that's definitely a benefit for players that are playing in tournaments, because the more matches you get on your UTR, the more reliable your rating is, and the more it demonstrates your improvement as well.
Yeah, and UTR, if your children do have aspirations of going higher, I know the National Academy used the UTR to work out who should be invited to the Metropolitan or the national squads. It could be that one day UTRs are used for seedings and acceptance into various tournaments. UTR is already used, I think, for entry into nationals as well.
Well, it's definitely used for tournament entry right now. Actually, it's the basis for who gets into tournaments, and we also used it as our main basis for grading this year in AJL. One thing I will say about UTR, it's a rating system. So basically, for those that aren't familiar with it, it's a numerical value that's assigned to try to put an estimation on a player's ability level. So it's a way to just compare everyone across all ages, genders, and internationally. So yeah, Tennis Australia, one thing you absolutely will see that I can guarantee, Craig just alluded to it, the ratings will be a major part of the tennis landscape in Australia going forward. They're only going to gain in significance. It may or may not be UTR as the rating system going forward, but it definitely will be a rating system of some point, and it's just worthwhile to get more familiar and more comfortable with UTR and other rating systems if we potentially go to a different one in the future.
Yeah, if you'd like to learn more about UTR, the web address is really easy. Sorry, it's just myutr.com, and you can read about how the algorithm works and how it's calculated. And as Tyler said too, this is how Tennis Victoria graded all the teams. So it is the measure that they use to work out which section people should be playing in. All right, so 2021 Associations Junior League Conditions of Play. You can download this manual online on the Tennis Victoria Associations Junior League page. If you go onto Tennis Victoria Leagues and Competitions Associations Junior League, this manual is there. This is the front cover picture with those words across the front cover, of course, and it has all the rules that you could possibly need to know about AJL. We're going to touch on a few of the main ones tonight, but if you go online, you'll be able to download this manual. It's about 4 pages. And Tyler, would you like to talk about how points are allocated? This is to get teams into the finals and create a ladder. It's very different to local competition where we provide 1 point for a set and 4 points for a win.
Yeah, that's right. So we're doing something a little different this season. So those of you that have participated in AJL in the past will see that it's a little different than it used to be. How it works is 2 points are given for each doubles rubber won. So you win an 8-game set in doubles, you get 2 points for your team. In singles, we're actually going to have 3 points available for each rubber. If you win in straight sets, so if you win 6-4, 6-3, your team gets 3 points. If you win in that match tiebreaker, you get 2 points for your team and your opponent gets 1. So really, we're trying to just promote the idea of fighting for every set. You're never out of it, and we also want to make sure that the matches that are close get a bit of a reward for being close. So that's kind of the idea there with the singles allocation. Also, the winning team on the day gets 2 points for winning the team match. So that's less than it was in the future. We're trying to make the ladder a bit closer. We're trying to make it so that the teams never feel like they're out of it, even towards the end of the season. So that's the idea with our trial for this season, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and that information in the blue box there is actually the wording in the manual about how the points are allocated. All right, so this is the other, probably the most complicated part of the manual. And Tyler is smiling and laughing there, I can see. This is the order of merit and emergencies. Tyler, would you like to walk us through these? This is tricky.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to concentrate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I absolutely recommend that everyone, like Craig has alluded to, goes through all the rules for AJL. That's not long. It'll only take you a few minutes. Go over it a couple times. Make sure you're well versed. This is the part that is potentially the most confusing. So there is an order of merit when it comes to singles for AJL. There's no order of merit in doubles, but for singles, you have to play in order of your best player playing 1 down to your and your players that aren't as good below them, basically. So they need to play in the correct order of ability. And that's also the order that your players are registered on your team. So that needs to be, if your player is listed as player 1, that's your best player in your team, then 2, 3, and 4. That should be in order of ability level, order of merit. In AJL, your team should never be better than what your 1, 2, 3, and 4 is. So your regular players, your base players, your 1, 2, 3, and 4, your listed 1, 2, 3, and 4 should always be your best possible singles lineup. And where that comes into play is if you have an emergency player play for you. So they cannot be better. Your emergency player cannot be better than the player that they're replacing. So sorry, I think maybe just go on mute. A couple of people might need to go on mute. So if say your number 3 player is not available that day, the player replacing them, and so you still have your 1 and 2 and your number 4, the player replacing your number 3 cannot be better than your number 3 player. So they need to fit in that same spot, though. So they need to fit in that same spot. If they're worse than your number 4 moves up to 3, and your emergency player plays at number 4. So you still need to play in the correct order of merit, but also you can't strengthen your team. That's what this rule talks about, is you can't make your team better. You can't have a player replace the player that's not there that day that's better than the player that's not there. So throw that out the window when we're talking to A divisions, though, A grade divisions. You can make your team better. You can make your team better because it's the highest level, and those rules don't apply in A grade divisions. But in B, C, and D divisions, it does. So it does apply where you can't make your team better than that 1, 2, 3, and 4. So yeah, it's definitely something to go over and make sure that you fully understand that. Any questions on that one? I probably went over that pretty quickly and without using real world examples. So
suffice to say, if your number 4 is out, all the other players can play up, but you can't replace your number 1 in B, C, or D. Basically, put the emergency in at number 1. Is that about right?
Well, you could. So if the scenario that, say, your 2, 3, and 4 are there that day, but your number 1 is not, you've got a replacement player for them. If the replacement player is not as good as your number 1, but they're better than your number 2, then they should go in at number 1. That's the only situation where they'd be your number 1 player.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, yeah. So read that. It's in the manual. And when you've got time to actually read through, it does make sense. Balls. As an association, we supply you with tennis balls, and we'd like to thank Tennis Victoria while Tyler is here, because our under 10s use the green balls, slightly less pressure, and that's a sort of I guess a national directive that it gives the younger children more time to develop their strokes with slightly slower balls coming through. And also it extends the length of some of the rallies and teaches them how to build a point rather than just smashing away a point that nobody can get to. You may argue that that is tennis, but in fact, one of the main skills in tennis is being able to build a point, not just hit clean winners. So we will supply all the teams with balls. You use 8 new balls a match. So unlike local comp where we have 1 pair of good condition second-hand balls, you'll use 4 new balls a match, and we'll have the green balls for you as well. So before we get that first match underway, when you collect your uniforms and shirts, we'll make sure the balls are there for the season for you as well. You don't use new balls for the doubles. So the singles, I'll go through that. We've got a whole slew of little points here just to talk about. Firstly, the Tennis Australia Code of Behaviour, Extreme Weather and Member Protection Policies and Code of Conduct all apply to Associations Junior League. So just as they apply in tournaments and that type of stuff, it applies in Associations Junior League. Matches start at 8:30 and must finish by 1 p.m. But if a match is underway, it's to be finished. individual players should be there the latest at 8:45. Now the matches have to start at 8:30, so it's rude if you get there at 8:45. You're expected to be there at 8:15 so you can warm up. But if they're not there by 8:45, they forfeit the singles, and that cutoff is 9:30 for doubles if for whatever reason. However, if you agree to start, even though you play the first point and the team got there late, you can't then come back and claim the rubber if things don't go the way you thought they would. If the whole team's missing at 9 a.m, they forfeit the match. So you will be going to clubs you're not as familiar with. You will be going to clubs that are a long way away. Plan to get there early because there's not much leeway, and they certainly won't be as flexible as the local comp. Not that we're very flexible either, but you need to get there on time. And I always have my teams that I manage there by 8:15 or 8 o'clock because they need to warm up. Technically, the first ball should be being hit at 8:30, you know, in a match situation. So that's technically, but yeah, get there before that, because if they're not there at 8:45, the singles are gone, and 9:30 for doubles. And don't come crying if they lose that and you want to try to claim it because they were late. Bayside's the same. Once you start, bad luck. Yeah, weather. So you've got till 9:30 due to weather, or it's a draw, or if it starts raining while you're playing, 60 minutes of continuous delay, and it becomes a washout. That's extended out to 10 o'clock in finals. If we can't play the final, which is between the top two teams, the top team wins if it's washed out. So it is worth finishing on top of the ladder. There's been many occasions where I do remember going back, I think it was 2 years, Bayside, I think, had 9 teams in the final, but 8 of them finished second and 1 on top, and the final was washed out. So only 1 team won their grand final. And I think Matteo and Maxim are on the line. Certainly Maxim was part of that team that finished on top of the ladder. So that was a good result. As I said, the final top 2 teams play in the grand final. There's no semi-finals or preliminaries. It's just the top 2 teams. We've talked about league management. That's probably a bit outdated now. Just use Match Centre. The opposition must supply 2 courts. They can say nobody else is coming, let's use 4 courts, but you have to agree to that. I don't know why you wouldn't, but it is your call, but I think you probably want to get the matches done as efficiently as possible. They all have to be on the same surface. So some clubs have Ontacar and some have artificial grass. Unless you agree, once again, that's as a team, you've got to make that decision. You can use the different surfaces. Yeah, that's probably a hangover from Pennant and grumpy old men when their kids playing. I think we're quite happy just to get it done. Remember, there's no doubles order of merit. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 don't have to play together. You can have 1 and 4, 2 and 3, or whatever combination you like. Singles is played first, followed by the doubles. So you get there and you get your singles on. When that's finished, you played by the doubles, which is the exact opposite to Pennant. The reason for that is that AJL is meant to be a social event. We can't do it at the moment with afternoon tea, and we'll talk to that a bit later on. But in theory, we want all the players there at the end of the match for the afternoon tea component and the social component of AJL, but I'll touch on that a bit later on. We've talked about the singles and the doubles formats. Now, when you get there, who do you want to put on? You actually have a choice. The away team has the option of saying which singles player wants to play first. So if you walk in there and the home team says, oh, we want to put on number 1 and number 3, you'll say, hang on, our number 3 wants to play first, and they've got to go with you. Don't make a big deal of it. It's not a big deal, but this is the way the order of playing matches go. Away team has first choice, home team second, away team third, home team fourth of which matches go on. It's not strictly play your 1s first and your 2s second and your 3s first or third, although that's what quite often happens too. So don't be shocked, and you don't have to be difficult on that. Just go with the flow. Results, Tyler, is it still 12 noon on Monday?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's one thing that I'd like to stress is that because Match Center is actually designed for use on your phone, just enter the scores when you're there on the day. Just before you even leave, get the scores entered and say, hey, other team, we've got the scores entered already. go ahead and confirm them, or you know, hopefully not dispute them. But yeah, I'd strongly recommend just getting it done right away. So don't even worry about the noon. Get it done right away while you're there on Sunday.
Yeah. Now we can do protests. Any protests have to be lodged by the association, so you have to contact us as soon as following, and we have to put up $100 to make a protest. And so if it's frivolous, we lose our money. So you better have a good reason. And to play in the finals, 3 matches to qualify. Tyler, can you clarify this? I haven't got this here. Are we going with just 4 players a match, or can more play?
Yeah, it's still just 4 players in a regular home and away match. The reason for that is that because it's junior tennis, we want players to get a lot of tennis in. Because we're all about opportunities to improve and get to play a lot, and it just makes it easier in terms of potential issues with, oh, so and so had to play doubles this week and they wanted to play singles, etc. You know, so it's just 4 players for a regular home and away match, but in finals you can have six players play. So if you have, you know, 6 players that have qualified for finals, gives them all the opportunity to play in that last match of the year.
Excellent. All right. The other thing that is online is the association teams and contacts book. That is the picture on the front cover there, and you will see down the side here, this is what it contains inside. So I've just taken a sample of it. Once again, it's 2 or 3 pages. It lists all the teams and the opposition team manager's contact number. So for instance, if 14A, well, let's do an example, 16A girls, if you're here in Bayside and it's been raining all night and raining the following morning, and you're going down to Geelong just to sign the score sheet, although technically this is not the right thing, I would be ringing Shane Harmon on that phone number and saying, is it worth us driving the next hour and a half to get down and sign the score sheet? And I'd probably do that at around about 7 o'clock in the morning, and they will fill you in, being aware that some of their matches are played at the indoor venue in Geelong.
And since the 16A girls in Barwon are playing at my tennis club and I'll be opening it up, yeah, we'll definitely answer that call and let you know if we're not playing that day. That's for sure.
Excellent. All right. So there you go. That's an added incentive if you're in the 16A girls. And you see, we've got all ours there, but if you go over the page, you'll see all the Eastern, all the Waverleys. If there is any ever question on arriving or order, or for some reason some kid's got a sleepover and you need to contact the opposition player and say, look, can the 1 and 2 go on first because John's going to arrive at 9 or something, maybe just try and sort it out beforehand. They're all there. So even though that's outside the rules, and Tyler shouldn't be hearing me say that, but sometimes reality is better than the rules. Now, I talked about afternoon tea. Obviously, during COVID lockdown, you cannot be social. However, the AJ in local comp, we have this sort of thing about it's a movable buffet. If you're lucky, you might get a pack of Tim Tams thrown on the table. If you guys want anything, it's over there. At AJL, the players actually sit down round the table, and this is the highlight for a lot of them, that whole social side of the event where they sit down, normally 4 on one side, 4 on the other, but they soon loosen up and find out that they actually do have stuff in common they can talk about. My daughter, I don't know how you describe her at these type of things. She actually made up conversational cards so they could sit down there, look through her notes and pick what they're going to talk about rather than just looking at each other. Once again, I think Maxim and Mateo are on the line. They've experienced that. Savannah's little cheat sheet of what to talk about next. And I think when we did these as live training sessions, we used to have the teams sit down properly with their feet under the table and chair and talk over afternoon tea. During COVID, obviously, we're a bit limited with that, so we're not expecting it, but it is also billed not as a light lunch. The packet of Tim Tams always has a place, but party pies, sausage rolls, sandwiches, you know, scones, that type of a variety of food groups. Not saying there's anything wrong with local afternoon tea, but as you go around the other clubs, when it's allowed, they will probably offer you something slightly better than you'd see on the local comp table, and it becomes an important part of the social side of it. Let's see, I think we're just about the end. All right, and this one's for the parents. This is about our last slide for parents. Selection process for your child's team. Always ask questions beforehand and understand whether this competition is right for him or her. This is about developing your tennis, going to a higher level of tennis, participating against the best in the state. As a parent, you can always be positive and relaxed, and your actions and words will have an impact on your child. So you have to be positive when they're getting selected and they find themselves in the team. It is impossible with 90 kids playing AJL that we can't avoid disappointment in some case. So you may not be in the team with your best friends. You may not be in quite the grade you thought you should be. But look on the bright side. You're going to make new friends. You're still going to have great experiences. No matter what you do, you're going to have the opportunity to improve your UTR. We can change order of merits up until round 5. The team manager just has to make a selection, make an application to the selection committee, and we'll review that. And if it works, it'll go straight in for the following week. We do need to know by Thursday if you want it to be in for the next week. But there's a lot of ways parents can put a positive spin on things. So if issues arise either during the match or with your team or something, avoid discussing them with the other parents or in front of the children. The children don't need to know that stuff. Just go aside. If you have questions or feedback, raise them in a professional way. Don't come at us because we don't take that kindly with selection. You can talk to the coach and the coach can talk to the selection panel, come straight to the selection panel. You can go to the president of the association. I'd love to take your call and talk to you about that. But it's not something the whole of the tennis community needs to be involved in if you think we've made a mistake. The other thing is, remember all the administrators and selectors. So Michael, I noticed Michael joined us, Michael Juste, Mayer's here, myself. We don't get a set for doing this, and the endless hours that go into putting AJL together that starts back in May right through till November. The ordering of uniforms, my garage, I'd love not to have all these uniforms sitting in there, but you've really got to treat all of us, including Mayor and Michael, with some sort of respect and courtesy at all times. You know, we're not here to be your whipping boys. And, you know, the one thing that really upsets us when a kid misses out on tennis because their parent doesn't like the position they were put in, that's just not good. So parents, you have a big role, and just always remember the Tennis Australia Code of Conduct exists, and keep your emotions in check, because we will issue warnings based on that code of conduct if we think it's inappropriate. So that's just a little shout out to the parents. You're all great, don't get me wrong. We love having you all there, but it doesn't hurt to be reminded about those things. And you have a great role to play in your daughter or son's enjoyment of their tennis, even if it is not what you envisaged that selection decision may have been. The other thing is with children and tennis, make sure they find out who the name of the person they're playing before them. You know, I can't tell you how many times my daughter's come off the court and say, oh, what was that girl's name? Oh, I don't know. Get them to introduce each other at the start of the match. It doesn't hurt. Find out what their names are. You know, obviously they're going to sit down over dinner. If they play tournaments, the kids might know them. But it is really good to know your opponent's name even before the start of the match. And that's another thing the team managers and parents can look at, is just getting the kids to know each other's name and breaking the ice. I see it all the time in local comp. The kids don't know who they're playing. They just front up, hit the ball and go. And that's not what AJL is a bit more than that. So that's the end of the formal side of the presentation. If you've got questions, maybe it's easiest to throw them in the chat. Also, if you'd like to unmute yourself, I'll shut up for a moment, and you can also ask them. So fire away. Maya's here, Michael's here, Tyler's here, and I'm here.
Hi, I've got a question. My name's Maria. We have 6 in our team. How do you determine who plays every week?
Michael, would you like to take that one? Michael Juste?
Sure thing. It's all about creating a roster. Now, given that you've got 6, no doubt every week there's going to be 2 players missing per week. So it's all about just making sure that you've got everyone lined up. And look, the other thing also with having 6 people, if some people can't play, try to get that up front so you can get the roster sorted out, so people can plan and the kids know exactly when they're playing. Right? For argument's sakes, what we've done for our team, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 miss out. The following week, you might have 1, 2, and then 5 and 6 will come in, right? So just keep rotating it, but also then factor in that if you've gone out and spoken to the parents already to confirm which kid which player can play and which player can't play, and then you can slot them all in. Hopefully, you can even it out so everyone gets an equal amount of games to play, especially making sure that if they do make it to the finals, they've got to make sure everyone qualifies for that as well. And remember, also for the finals, you can play 6. Is that correct, Tyler?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those are great points, Michael.
All right, so if everyone qualifies, plays to 3 to 4 games, right? They all qualify, then everyone can play in the finals. Hopefully, that's answered your question.
Thank you. It did. Thank you.
Maria, Delara Bellis's mum will be in contact about availability, so she'll be setting up the roster for you, and you can give her all the details of when Nikki is available, and all the other players will do the same.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
For those that didn't see what the hoodie looks like, I'm wearing one. There you go, big logo on the back, and it's got a little thing on the back there, if you can see it, Bayside Moorabbin. So this is what so if you ordered a hoodie, as I said, they're in my, well, I wish they were in my garage. They're actually in the passageway at the moment because the garage is fairly full. I did get news from Australia Post today that the uniforms, the actual shirts will be delivered tomorrow. So yeah, at the moment, we get our balls from Brighton Sports because they sponsor both associations, Moorabbin and Districts and Bayside. But obviously they're closed because of lockdown, but they do have our balls in stock there. So we just basically have to get them out of the shop. And what we'll do is we'll package them all up. What I would say with clothing, we didn't really touch on that. If you've ever gone to the shop, sometimes your child never tries on the right size top first time. It's no different with our tops. If you try them on, they have different sizes and that type of stuff. Don't panic. Don't scream at us. We've got other sizes they can try. Just might have to deal with it for a week. We'll give you what we think is the right size based on what you all ordered. I know some of you have shirts from last year. The other shout out I'd give is any girls out there, any girls team, if you'd really prefer a singlet rather than the traditional t-shirt, this year for the first time we've ordered singlet style tops, same design as the boys t-shirt, but there are girls out there who prefer not wearing the t-shirt and something a bit more feminine. So we have round neck singlets for them, and if you'd like that, maybe just drop me a line at president@baysidetennis.asn.au or send a message through the website, or even if you send it to Maya, which is AJL at baysidetennis.asn.au, she can just forward it to me and I'll make sure we give you a singlet instead.
Craig, can if people haven't ordered hoodies, can they still order it through us?
I would have a few spare there. We have 90 AJL players, and I think I ordered 66, of which I think about 50 were ordered. So yes, jump on. We don't want them left behind. You know, they'll be fine for next year. They're pretty good quality. Those that have had our AJL tops in the past, I really had an issue with the zips on the last one. So these are far more durable and warm and cozy, and I think you can see the kids wearing these for years and years. And I know the fashion is to have them much bigger than what they would normally wear. My daughter is a perfect example, wearing a medium-sized men's that hangs off her arms and everything, but I think that's the fashion nowadays. So we made sure we got big sizes.
All right, Marcus, that answers your question, buddy. So ping me an email of what the size for Sarah is, and I'll order one for you.
Thanks, mate. I expect to see Coach Michael one as well on the email.
I did get Michael and Maya one.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions, or can we let you go?
I had one more question. It's Maria again. This weekend we can't play because of lockdown. Does that mean we'll add another game to the end, or does that mean we just miss out?
Oh, sorry, Maria. Yes, I did see you came in after we'd addressed that. I'll go back to Tyler. We did that as one of our very first items. So, Tyler?
Yeah, so Maria, what we're saying right now is we're postponing that round. So we're looking into rescheduling it at the end of the season. So we're not pushing matches back. So it's not like round 1 will be pushed back to round 2, round 3, etc. We're not doing that. We're looking at any potential rounds that have been affected by COVID lockdowns, putting them at the end of the season. So that's just the possibility. We're, like I said, we're exploring that as an option.
Thank you.
And then Craig, did you want me to go over entering in scores, or else we do have the guides?
That's right. Yes. How about those people who are comfortable with using Match Center, and that's fine. You can leave us now. We thank you for your attendance. We apologise we weren't able to do our normal launch. We normally do a launch with a barbecue, and we have the coaches on the courts and the squads, and you get to meet your teams, and we can change shirts on the spot. This year, obviously, that's not possible. So this is a replacement to that, because normally we give you this presentation in person while you're eating a sausage. But thank you for coming. This will be taped. We will get a link out to it for anybody who wants to watch it. I'll give the link to Michael, and he can send out everybody an email. Now, if you want to stay on, we're now going to pass over to Tyler, who's going to share his screen and take you through entering scores on Match Center.
Yeah, perfect. All right, I'll just go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so we're going to go, let's see, screen 1 is the one to share. Great. All right, hopefully you all can see that now. So we're looking at my Match Center dashboard. Yeah, like I said, don't pay no attention to the L's on the side there. So this is, like we talked about earlier, what it should look like if you're registered on your team, or if your player is registered on your team and you're looking at your player's profile with their login, with their Match Center login. So it has the details for past matches. For you, it also would show your upcoming matches. My season for Pennant is over, unfortunately, so I don't have an upcoming match. But I do have a to-do item. And so a to-do item is going to show when you can enter scores. So it's not going to show this until the match time hits on the Sunday morning. So if you're looking for this prior to 8:30 a.m. on Sunday morning, you're not going to see it. But once 8:30 hits, then you'll be able to enter the score for that match. So I've created a fake league here to be able to enter scores. So, you know, it shows to do. I'm on home team, and I'm going to go ahead and enter the scores for my team. So I press that blue enter score button. The first thing it's going to ask me was the match actually played or was it not played? So not played would be the scenario where it's either washed out or there's a forfeit. So I would select not played for one of those two circumstances. But we're going to say this match was played. So I click the played. And then we go through here, and this shows exactly the same format as AJL. So we'll go through, and we've got rubber number 1. Let's say it was played. There's also options for incomplete and not played, and I'll show you what to do with those in a second. So we'll say it was completely played. It was complete to the end. I played as number 1 against the number 1 player for the other team. And then we can enter the scores here. So let's say I lost the first set 6-3. So I just put in my 3, populates the 6. Let's say I won the second set 6-3, but then I lost the 10-point tiebreaker 5-10. So that's how you enter a score in for a singles match. You know, it goes to that match tiebreaker. All right, the next one. Let's say it was incomplete. So, and then you have to put in a reason. You have to say why it was incomplete. Let's say the away player retired. So our number 2 played their number 2. And so the away player retired. We're going to say the first set was 6-3. And the away player retired at 4-2 in the second set. You always only put in the actual games that were played. So in this situation, you would not put in 6-2 in the second set there because you didn't actually play those last 2 games. It stopped at 4-2. So you put in 4-2 and that retirement there. All right, moving on. Let's see. Let's go ahead and we'll do another complete match. Our number 3 played against their number 3. This one was a bit more straightforward. Let's say our player lost 6-3, 6-4. All right. The last one, their team didn't have a number 4 player in the day. So we'll say it was not played. The reason was the away player forfeited. We put in our number 4. We don't put in a player, we put in unspecified player for their number 4 player because they didn't have anybody. You know, they didn't have anybody placed. So we don't put in anybody for them. All right. Moving on to the doubles, it is pre-populated the players that played in singles in order, but like Craig said, there's no order of merit in doubles, so we don't need to play 1 and 2 playing together necessarily at 1 doubles. So let's say instead I played with our number 4 player, and I played against their number 1 and number 3. Then in the other doubles, they did not have, let's see here, they didn't have a player there, and it was going to be our number 2 and number 3. So we'll say that the first one was completely played. We'll put in it was a tiebreaker. So I put in the 9 and it populates the 8. And this one was not played because the away team forfeited because they didn't have 4 players that day. So that's kind of the idea. Then at the bottom, there's a comment section and there's a dispute button. The only time you really take advantage of the comment section is if you had an emergency player play for your team. So if you have an emergency player play, let's say instead of an unspecified player, well, instead of forfeiting, they actually had an emergency player play. So you put an unspecified player for that emergency player, unspecified player here as well. And then in the bottom, you'd say, so you'd say player X played number 4 singles and number 2 doubles for away team. I'll check a report that shows, oh yeah, player X, I'll go ahead and I'll enter them in for you, for the other team. So, so that's the time when you take advantage of that comment section. The dispute button is used by the team confirming the scores. If the scores aren't all correct, you just go ahead and dispute them. It's not a big deal. Normally, it's just a situation where the score may have been off by a game or 2. So let's say instead of being 9-8, it was actually 9-7. So as the away team or the confirming team, you would just dispute the result and say, actually, number 1 doubles was 9-7. And then I would make that change. So, so that's the process for entering scores. It's just that easy. You can see that this long and narrow format for entering scores, it's built for being done on your phone. So it's so easy to just do it while you're there on site. I absolutely recommend doing that. Just go ahead on Match Center as you're there and enter the scores. The other thing I can't quite show you because I don't have an upcoming match any longer, but you can also print out a scorecard if you'd like to for your upcoming match. So for your upcoming match, you'll be able to see, there'll be a button that says view details. So instead of, past match, it says full score. For upcoming matches, it would say view details. You'd click on view details and it gives you a blue button that gives you the opportunity to print the scorecard. And this is what that scorecard would look like then. It's going to show your team and your opponents, going to show your players in order of merit on the bottom, and then you're going to get the opportunity to, to actually print them off in the correct order on the day, and then sign that, complete that with your opposing team, so you've got a paper record. So there's kind of 2 alternatives for recording the scores. Either print off the scorecard, which is absolutely kind of the the default way to go, printing out the scorecard, bringing it with you. Otherwise, if you don't have a scorecard for some reason, you really need to enter the scores right away on site. So with your phone, you can't leave. If you don't have a scorecard, you need to enter the scores before you leave the facility. That's for sure. So that's the process. The other thing I will show, I'm going to pop over to the AJL webpage really quickly. So this is on the Tennis Vic website. You go to play, competitions, Association Junior League. That's how you get here. Or just do a Google search for Tennis Vic Association Junior League. So lots of great information is on here, like Craig talked about. We've got a link directly to Match Center. We have the contact details for all team managers are right here. And we have the conditions of play. So that's the rules that Craig talked about and that I recommended you all go over before the season starts. And then we have guides. So I've talked about how to link your profile if you need to, how to enter scores, and how to print a scorecard. Those guides are all right here. So if you forget how to do any of this, it's all just on the AJL webpage. So that's about it that I wanted to talk about. Any questions about any of that process?
Hi, my name's Anna, new to AGL, so it's all new for me. I just wanted to know who enters in the scorecards. Is it the coaches or the team managers, or is it any parent can do it in both home and away teams? Or is it just one home team enters the scorecard?
Yeah. Generally, it would probably be team managers entering in the scorecard. But anybody that is registered on either the home team or the away team, so any player that's registered with that login, with their tennis account, can enter the scores. So generally the responsibility falls on the home team, and generally then it would fall on the team manager to do that. But either team can do it. So if say we talked about how it's noon on Monday is the deadline for entering scores, you're on the away team, you see the home team hasn't done it yet, but you've got a copy of the scores, you know what all the results were, go ahead and just enter them. Go ahead and just do it. You know, because I really don't care too much. I just need the scores entered. So, and obviously everyone wants to see the results put up online as well. So we want to see those scores entered as soon as possible. So, so yeah, that is the case. So generally home team manager, but anybody that's registered on the team with their tennis account, which means anybody that sees the details for AJL right when they log in or they press that home button, they have the ability to enter the score. So.
Anna, just as a fallback, Maya and I, well, if we notice that the scores haven't been come in, the team managers can actually send us a text with a copy of it, and we can just ensure that all our teams have got their scores in anyway, if we have to, okay? Because I'm not too sure, is there a fine that if we don't have the scores in time?
I am pretty lenient on fining, but that is definitely a last resort. Let's hope we never have to get there, basically. There will be stern reminders first. And generally, just to put it out there, AJL teams are really usually pretty good about entering the scores on time. So there's definitely that standard to uphold for all of your teams, is that, you know, usually there's no issues. All the scores are going to be in by Monday at noon. So don't be the person that doesn't get them in by that time, basically.
Yeah. So for all the team managers that are on there, if you're struggling to do the scores, definitely reach out to May and myself, and we'll help get those scores in there. Okay.
I think last season Maya was entering 14 scorecards a Sunday.
I was doing a lot. Yeah. Got very speedy by the end of it. And I think it's important just remember, if you're the away team, just remember to verify those results as well.
Yeah, it's definitely the best practice. If it gets to, you know, I think it's 5 p.m. on, yeah, if you don't verify them, we'll just assume that they're all good. It's much better if you just go ahead and confirm them yourself. That way we have both teams' agreement that the scores are entered correctly.
Well, if there's any more questions? Let's suggest you've done a great job, Tyler. I'd like to thank, on behalf of all of us, for Tyler for giving up his evening and coming and joining us. It's great if we can have the actual organizer of the competition to answer all our questions. So thank you very much, Tyler. And I'll hopefully see you in 2 weeks' time